Two things I'm going to ask you, Sean. One is that you've referenced the book a lot. Do you have a favorite page or favorite concept in there? And then once you answer that, I look forward to kind of diving into some of the ways that you've been using infinite banking over the years.
Sure. Yeah, you actually had a great episode about this probably 3-4 weeks ago, where you kind of went through your top 3, top 5 favorite.
All right, let's see.
I know you were zinging each other. I know, Anthony, you came up with 6 to the table instead of 5 that you were supposed to. I thought that was very sneaky. But I think I would answer that economic value add was probably where the concept that really kind of was rediscovered. And he talks about how this is something that people, opportunity cost is something that people have factored in for hundreds of years, but then they kind of forgot about it conveniently, and now it's back on the table. And he kind of brings that up as something that's extremely important. And then the other thing that really, I think, slaps you across the face in the book, at least is in one of the first couple chapters, where he talks about you can be flying in an airplane, right, and going 200 miles an hour, but if the headwind is going 300 miles an hour against you, it'd be better if you just landed the airplane and wait for the wind to go away. And then he talks about, hey, well, what about if you actually get in the air and you have now a tailwind going with you, and you have 300 mile per hour tailwind plus your 200 mile per hour speed? Now you're going 500 miles. And it gets even better than that. And he's like, well, that doesn't stop there, right? Now, what if you factor in that everyone else is going, negative, going because of their headwind, they're going negative 200 miles per hour. They never landed the plane. They're going actually in reverse. Well, now you got to consider your position relative to them. So I think this is the concept that to me really clicked, that it was like, all right, IBC is what allows people not just to, because you got to compare yourself to where other people are doing. Other people are putting their money in 401ks. They're putting their money in qualified plans. They're trying to worry about the interest they're getting on the pittance of their savings, instead of focusing on the entire volume of the cash flow. And these are the concepts that I think once you truly get, doesn't just put you head and shoulders above your competition. It puts you miles ahead of them, so that you're in a whole other league. And I was really blown away by those particular concepts. I think those resonated with me the most.
Sean, I'm impressed, man. You are a student of infinite banking.
Yeah.
Rattled off 2 great concepts there. Well done.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, so yeah, you had a couple questions about how I'm happy to get into the nuts and bolts of how I'm specifically using it. I think that might be maybe of particular interest to some of your listeners, or certainly have an interesting background when it comes to what I've been putting the money to over the last couple years.
Yeah, let's get into it, man. Let's share maybe 2 or 3 or something that kind of jumps out at you that you've done in the last 14, 15 years or so.
Yeah, and again, I think it needs to be said, even though it's kind of an infantile part of the understanding of the concept, is like, you don't jump into a gym and just hit up 500-pound bench presses, right? You got to start from somewhere and start small and work up to it. And I think that's what's so critical about IBC is, again, it's not a tool, it's a process. And so like what I was doing when I first started allowed me to then build on that success cumulatively over a period of time. So anyway, that being said, I think that's a really important caveat. Over the last couple of years, I've been very fortunate in that I've been taking my winning, or my say windfalls from various business dealings early on, and been throwing it into the policy. Every time there's a slight windfall, like a business dealing, whatever, where did it go? Right into the policy, right into my savings account, which is my IBC set of policies. And so from there, once I built up a nest egg in my policy structure, some of the more interesting things I've been able to do in the last, say, 3-4 years, which I think is kind of fun, is let's see. One of them is just a year and a half ago. I went out on a whim, and again, this is much more on the speculative front, so I don't want to give any impression that everyone should be doing this. But I had some money sitting there, and I came up across afforded an opportunity to work with somebody who I knew for a long time, and we were grabbing beers, and we were just talking about our passions for what we love to do in our free time. And he surprised me, and he goes, Sean, if I had my druthers, I'd be out on the ocean all day long fishing for lobster. And he's like, that's my dream. And he was in construction. This is guy, would not expect to be a weathered fisherman. But it turns out he'd been going out there as an individual, just baiting these, couple of traps. And he said, well, my lifelong dream is to be a lobsterman. And so, my head started, I asked him some obviously follow-up questions like, is there money in lobster? And there is, right? And so without going and boring you to tears, I would say that we went into the numbers together, and I was like very intrigued at what you could put into the business and what you could get out in terms of profit. And so I said, hey man, I'll take a flyer on this. What if I bought a lobster boat, which aren't cheap, by the way, they're upwards of $150,000. And I say, and you're the captain, and let's split the money in a way that we find fair. We inked an agreement on the back of a cocktail napkin in a bar. And so that's what I did. Next day, I call up my loan. I'll call up my insurance agent, ask for a loan. And I had the money in my account literally the next day. And
wait, Sean, when they took that call, did they run your credit check?
They didn't ask me what it was for. Nor did I volunteer it, because I didn't want to be. Obviously, been dealing with these guys for a while. My insurance company, and I didn't want to have a 20-minute conversation about you're doing what now. But that's what, again, one of the best things about IBC and whole life in general is when you need money, they don't ask you what's it for. They don't ask you when you're going to pay it back. They don't ask you any questions whatsoever. They say, they ask you what bank account do you want it in. And I had the money the next day, and I bought a boat with that week. And there's, believe it or not, a success, at least so far, a success story to that, or there's success to that story, and that it is now producing cash flow that is quite significant, upwards of $5,000-$6,000 a week. That's revenue, not profit, but from lobster fishing. And I would not have been able to take. By the way, I should mention that opportunity to buy that boat was like once in a life opportunity, because it was a top of the line boat. It was only available. It was apparently, again, I don't know anything about boats to save my life, but my friend did, and so he said, "This, I'm telling you, man, I've been in this industry. I've been following this for decades, and this boat is going to be. You're not going to be able to buy this after tomorrow. It's going to be gone. You got to take advantage of this opportunity now." And so the fact that I had the ability to put money on an opportunity that was very fleeting in a way that probably few people did allowed me to take advantage of an opportunity like that. And I think that I know that IBC has success stories like this in abundance, and that very few people can just call up, and get that kind of money that quickly. If you're not involved in IBC, even I had the money in, say, a 401k or in the money market or something like that. It's like there's not the same level of fluid liquidity and no questions asked. I mean, I certainly couldn't get a loan for working with a bank officer on that would be fun. So yeah, that was one of the more recent ones that I did, and like I said, it's reaping some rewards. I'm not saying it's all been roses and fairy dust. It's certainly been a fun journey. I actually went out there on the lobster boat several times, and I'll tell you guys, I do not have my sea legs like I thought I did.
Wow, I can't imagine. Did you get sick?
I did. He called me a land lover, and it spoiled our friendship a little bit. But I realized very quickly that it's not so much the rocking the boat actually got me. It's the dead fish that's spraying in your face. As you got to bait the cages. And yeah, I lasted about 5 hours, which was longer than I thought I might. But I was then at the end. I was blue in the face and puking over the side of the boat on the way in. So it was. I'm not meant to be a lobster boat captain, but I am meant to finance the deals that make these sort of opportunities happen. So that was
that's awesome.
Yeah, in addition to that, again, this just having the policy structure in place has afforded me the ability to buy real estate I bought, I went in with 2 other guys from the investor club I was mentioning. We each put in about, well, I don't know if I should mention amounts on the we all put in a significant amount of money that we got access to. They had gotten the money from crypto. They did quite well in the crypto world. I wasn't so lucky. But I pulled out my policy. We went in together on a real estate deal. We're now Airbnb-ing that. And it is incredibly lucrative. It's a beach house in Milton, New Hampshire. So I've been able to take advantage of real estate opportunities. I've been able to buy businesses. I've been able to buy out partners in businesses that I own. Again, just IBC has opened up doors that would be otherwise completely unavailable to me. I've invested in managed funds for ATMs. I think I don't know if that was on your podcast or another one where you had discussing again a lot of passive income stream potential that can come about from that IBC affords. And I always emphasize passive income streams above active ones. So ATMs were very interesting to me. I've also invested in oil and gas using my IBC policies. So, I mean, these are just not to just give a laundry list, but these are all things that I didn't do all at once. Again, this is over a course of multiple years, but without having the IBC policies and the structure in the way that the paradigm permits, these opportunities wouldn't be available. And I think that is the most important thing to be noted about being an IBC practitioner.
You want to see the entire episode? Click here. If you want to learn how investors use infinite banking to increase their returns and lower their taxes, click here. If you want to see if infinite banking is for you and you have some questions, hop on a discovery call with us and one of our coaches. The link for that will be in the description.